Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Helen. We are going to be talking about things you should not be sharing as a content creator. Now, so many people are becoming content creators. So many people want to be influencers. So many people want to teach people, educate people on the internet. And while that is a very good thing because you're putting yourself out there and you're also educating and maybe even making money from it, I feel like there are some things that we should not be sharing. Sometimes in a bid to be relatable to your audience, we tend to overshare, give out so much information because we're trying to be vulnerable, we're trying to be relatable so that the audience can understand and feel what we're feeling. However, it is necessary to kind of strike a balance between oversharing and what you should keep personal. So I'm going to be sharing 5 things I believe that you should keep private or keep to yourself. I'm also going to give a bonus tip at the end, so stay to the end to hear what the bonus tip is. So the first one I believe that you should not be sharing is your location. There are a lot of people sharing day in their lives. There are a lot of people sharing routines. There are a lot of people sharing how they go about their daily activities. Come with me and all of those videos. Whilst they are good and they are very entertaining and also educative, we don't need to know where you live. We don't need to know what the front of your house looks like. If you're filming and you're making vlogs from inside of your house, try to avoid showing us what the window view looks like. If you're somebody who has a routine, maybe you go to the gym in the morning, then you go for your kids drop off, things like that. We don't need to know what gym you're going to by 5:30 a.m. It's also putting yourself in such a way that people can easily access you. It becomes a safety issue. There was a guy on the internet who, if you take a picture on a street, he will tell you where you are exactly. Do you get what I mean? So sometimes leaving all those digital footprints can make people actually know where you stay. I know of someone who she lives in Nigeria, right? Somebody I follow, she lives in Nigeria, and she was always posting pictures of her house, in front of her house, taking cute pictures and all of that. And while that is not a bad thing, one day somebody actually came to the front of her door and knocked on her door, and then she was like, hi, she was like, I don't know you. She was like, yes, but I follow you on Instagram and I figured out that you live here. This was the creepiest thing I had ever heard. And this is not even a made-up story. This is real life. It just goes to show that people are watching and people can decipher things from the videos and the content that you make. If you're making unboxing videos, try to keep your addresses covered. If you have a routine, try to keep your routine in such a way that we're just seeing what you're doing, not necessarily the surroundings. I hope you get the gist. Second thing that I feel like you should be keeping to yourself is your income and your financial details. We don't necessarily need to know how much you make. We don't need to know what your how much is in your account balance. Now there are several videos on the internet, people showing how much I made on social media, how much YouTube paid me. Now that's fine. There's no problem with that, okay? Because you're just showing us a part of your actual income. You're just showing us a bit of how much YouTube paid you, or maybe social media paid you, or a brand paid you for a collaboration. That's fine, but we don't need to know how much is exactly in your account balance because you're trying to be relatable. We don't need to know how much you make exactly from your 9 to 5 because you're trying to be relatable. Those are information that are not necessarily going to help anybody, but they would also now make people put you on a certain pedestal. People will now start guessing, oh, if you have this amount of money, you should live here. If you have this amount of money, you should do this. And people would even start taxing you unnecessarily. So things about your income or your family income, we don't necessarily need to know. If you want to do how much YouTube paid me, that's fine. That's educational. And it can also be encouraging for people who are just starting out. They can use that as some motivation to create content or maybe that kind of thing. But we don't necessarily need to know your annual pay. We don't need to know how much you have saved up in your RRSP or your pensions, your investments. Those are just details that I feel like you should just keep off the internet. The third thing that I feel like we don't need to know are like family matters or your family's information details. So we don't need to know where your kids go to school. That's an unnecessary information. You're also putting your kids' safety at risk if you're doing that. Sometimes you're doing maybe your mommy activities, your mommy routines, and you're showing your kids wearing their uniforms. We can tell if you have a child that goes to the same school, right? Uniforms are something that we can use to know what school a child goes to, right? Sometimes uniforms are specific to that school. So don't post your kids wearing their uniforms. Maybe if they have like a uniform that is general, maybe they're just wearing maybe black pants and a white shirt or something like that. Cover the crest, anything that would draw attention or make people know that this is the school that your kids go to. We don't need to know that. But we don't need to know where your partner works. We don't need to know where your sister goes to school, especially if these are people who do not even want their lives on the internet, right? So keep things like where your partner works, how your partner goes every day, their routines, your kids' schools, your siblings, your parents. We don't need to know where they work and how they go about their routines. We don't need to know what car they drive. That's information for them to share. So just try and keep those things away from the internet, even if you're trying to build a community. The fourth thing that I feel like you should keep away from the internet while trying to build your community or your audience are like real-time updates. So you're going out for lunch with the girls. We don't need to know where you are. We don't necessarily need to know. You're going for dinner with your partner. We don't need to know that you are currently at XYZ restaurant having this dinner. Do you understand? Sometimes people just put all of that in the heat of the moment, especially with stories. You know how stories are like, let me just be doing updates. Sometimes doing a full post may take some time. So stories kind of give you that opportunity to post as it's happening, like real time. But even if you're doing that, if you're going to take a picture of your food, maybe you went out to a restaurant, just take the picture of the food. You don't need to tag the restaurant, the location at that point. Maybe when you go home, when you feel like you're in a safer environment, you can then post the pictures. If you feel like, you still want to let us know how your experience was at the place, you can now post and tag location. But we don't need to know real time. We don't need to know that right now you are at the bus stop. We don't need to know that right now you are at the airport. When everybody travels, they become like a content creator. We want to see what you're doing, want to see what you're eating. We don't need to see what hotel you are staying at the moment, because again, that can be a security or a safety issue. I'm telling you, that guy that I was making reference to, even if you take a picture in a hotel room, he will tell you what hotel you're in. Maybe after 24 hours when you are back home, or I know somebody who actually even posts her trips when she's back home, and then she'll be posting the stories, she'll be posting the pictures. You'll be thinking it's happening at the moment, but no, she's already back home to her base and her family, and then she's now giving off all the updates. We don't need to know where your routines looks like. We don't need to know where you are at every point in time. We don't need to know all of that updates. You're just leaving footprints for people who have ulterior motives to be able to find. Now, the fifth thing that I feel like you should also keep to yourself, even if you're trying to build a community, is your job. If you have a 9-to-5, that is, if you're working as a full-time content creator, I can understand. But if you're somebody who is also doing a 9-to-5, we don't need to know your job details. Now, where people work may not necessarily be private information. I mean, everybody has like their current place of work maybe on LinkedIn. Well, not everybody, but most people have like details about their role and their titles and where they work on LinkedIn. Now, but we don't need to know the specifics of your job. Some jobs even have like policies surrounding social media. So try and find out if there are policies like that. Now, we are filming day in the life of a corporate lawyer or something. That's okay. But also be sure that your company doesn't have any issues with videos like that. When you're filming in your office, keep away things that would show where you're working specifically. Company details, clients details, those are confidential details. We don't want to be seeing that on the internet. If you have an annoying boss or an annoying colleague, you don't need to come and give us a story time. Just keep it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you have that annoying boss or that annoying colleague and you come on the internet and you're telling us story times of how annoying your boss is, you're going to get views, you're going to get the engagements that you want, but at the detriment of your job. Somebody that works that job would know who you work with and reach out. There are several videos on the internet where people talk about how they lost their job because they shared too much on the internet, because they wanted to share so much on TikTok. If you know that you still want to keep that job, whatever it is that your boss is doing or that your colleague is doing, find a better way, find a better outlet to air your views Don't come on the internet and be talking about how annoying somebody is at your workplace and expect that you will still have the job. It doesn't work that way, okay? There's no need to set up a camera and a ring light to start discussing your boss or discussing your annoying colleague. You're only setting yourself up for getting fired, okay? So if you have things about your work, just keep them to yourself. You can tell us what you do as a general information, but don't try to give specifics of what people did or what happens at your workplace if you know that you would still like to retain that job. Okay, so I promised that I was going to share a bonus tip, and for those that have watched up until this moment, and again, this is just my own personal opinion, but another thing that I feel like you should not share on the internet are your relationship issues. Now, I know that sometimes if you're in a relationship with someone, you can get very emotional. You just want to air your views, you're upset, and then you just pick up your phone and you start recording about what your partner did, about what somebody did, and that really upsets you. Well, that may give you the relief that you want, the outlet that you want at that point. If you know that you are not walking away from that relationship, don't bother sharing it. The reason why I say that is because, first of all, the internet never forgets, okay? Once you come out here and you talk about how your partner cheated on you or your partner did something that was totally unforgivable, but then you now go ahead and forgive that partner, you have literally just made the internet judge that partner. And when you forgive that partner and move on, the internet is not going to forgive that partner. The internet will still always see that partner as a cheat, as somebody who doesn't value you, as somebody. And meanwhile, you and your partner have discussed it and you have maybe moved on. But then the internet doesn't work that way. The internet is still going to see your partner as that bad person that you have painted them as. So if you know that you are not ready to walk away from the relationship, or you have not already walked away, people do story times of, how their partner treated them badly, just for educational purposes, maybe to educate younger people, younger women, or people who are in that kind of situation. And that's fine, right? But if you know that you're going to remain in that relationship, there's no need to come and talk about how your partner did this, how your partner did that, how your partner does not tidy up after themselves. If you have already walked away, or if you see yourself walking away, by all means, share if you feel led to. Maybe if you feel like it's going to help somebody, it's going to teach somebody a thing or two, that's fine. That's totally up to you. But if you know that you're still going to keep that relationship, just keep it to yourself. Of course, if it is something that is life-threatening, please find a better way to seek help. Don't keep that to yourself. Anyway, we have come to the end of this video. I wanted to share this because I see so many people sharing their opinions, so many people just giving off content, so many people are creating, and I love it for everybody. But let's just also remember that there's some time to just keep quiet. So just try to protect yourself, protect your family, protect your loved ones while you're in the internet and while you're trying to be relatable to people. If there are other things that you feel like should be kept private, please let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, share. I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.